Hi, I'm Brandon. I love Satan Christmas movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Satan Christmas movies.
I'm Alonso, and what the hell was that? And this
is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast. Brandon and friends host his podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode, another week, even, of Deck the Hallmark. It's great to be here with my buddy Alonso. Alonso, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, sir.
You getting in that Christmas spirit?
I mean, never not, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, this has got to be the most down, right? Like in between July and December is kind of the doldrums, right?
Well, I mean, okay, for example, I don't know if I've talked about this on here before. My project this year is that I was going to make Christmas cookies throughout the year, not to have them necessarily, although that's nice, but just so that when the holiday rolls around, I can make them without having to learn a new recipe when I'm already got a million other things happening during the holidays. So I'm sort of prepping now to okay, now I know how to make these. So when, Thanksgiving hits and I want to make them for Christmas, I'll know, and I'll have done it before. So this week, Dave is going to teach me how to roll dough, which I've never done before.
Okay.
So I'm going to make shortbread cookies, but we bought egg-shaped cutters. So they're gonna technically be Easter cookies.
I see what you're doing.
That's very nice.
But I'm really doing it so that when Christmas rolls around, I can make Christmas cookies.
Yeah,
Alonso over there making Resurrection Day cookies.
that's right.
You love to see
He's got
it.
some cross
Stones and
stencils.
roll
I know he said egg, but I know he's
I know what he's
cross
Yeah, getting the nail-shaped ones were really hard to find, but
Good
Yeah,
God.
given today's movie, fair.
Yeah.
Listen, Dan, what's your favorite rolled dough book? Is it James and the Giant Peach? Or?
Yeah, BFG's up there. It's really good.
Guys,
It's
come
good
on.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
kidding me right now?
Come on.
Kidding me right now?
Come on.
That's good stuff. Alonso, your new edition of your Christmas book is coming out this holiday season. Yes,
It is. Yes.
Any? I mean, I know you've announced it, but any update on date or pre-sale date even?
Still waiting to hear, but trust me, when I know, you'll know.
Yeah, we will.
Listen, I don't want to let it pass by. I don't want to.
I appreciate it.
Shall we dive into Dear Santa?
I would love to, Brand.
I guess.
Dear Santa, Paramount Plus is where it was housed, and it originally dropped on there on November 25th, 2024, and it went a little something like this. There's these parents. They're downstairs. They are arguing about where the angel is. It's supposed to be on top of the tree. Their young son, Liam, is overhearing all of this. He decides that he's sick of his parents fighting. He knows what will make them happy, and so he is going to write a letter to Santa to try to make everything go back to the way it was. He comes downstairs and he tells his parents about the letter, and we get a lot of info after he announces this. We find out that he's in the 6th grade, so Dad is concerned that he's still writing letters to Santa. They moved to this town 3 months ago, but his parents are still surprised that he ended up finding a friend. And for some reason, Liam lies about this friend and says that his buddy Gibby, who is real, has cancer, which he does not. Needless to say, Liam is a bit awkward, and we also find out that he has dyslexia, which is an important part of this movie. The next day at school, he is captivated by his 6th grade crush, Emma, who even stands up for him when kids make fun of his dyslexia. After school, he goes to drop off the letter to Santa. He writes to Santa Claus, but instead of Santa, he writes Satan, 'cause dyslexia. Next thing you know, Satan shows up in the middle of the night. Liam still believes that he is Santa, despite the fact that he doesn't look like Santa, and he has devil horns. Satan figures out what happened and decides to play along and offers to grant Liam 3 wishes, Aladdin style. Not sure what to wish for, Liam wishes that Emma would give him a chance. At school the next day, he notices that Emma is just really staring at him, and Satan appears in a miniature version and tells him to go shoot his shot. And so he goes and he invites her to go with him to the Post Malone concert That night, she's very excited about this. Liam tells Gibby about this encounter with Santa, and Gibby's like, this don't sound like Santa. So Liam confronts Satan and figures out that he's Satan and tries to get out of the deal because, you don't want to make a deal with Satan. Satan says that, listen, you're going to make your final 2 wishes. I guarantee you're going to make them. And when you do, your soul belongs to me. Liam gets home and is greeted by his parents and a child psychologist. His session is interrupted by Gibby and Satan, who takes Liam to the Post Malone concert. With a little help from Satan, Liam is called onto stage by Post Malone, who is under some sort of spell and believes that Liam is his inspiration. He dances and brings Emma on stage, and afterward, she kisses Liam on the cheek. Everything is going great for him, except Gibby is starting to feel a little left out. Later at home, Liam uses his second wish to fix Gibby's teeth because Gibby believes that's the reason why no girl will give him a shot, and invites Gibby to join his date with Emma at the local Christmas carnival. His parents become incredibly concerned when they overhear him talking about Satan, and so they go to pick him up at the carnival and bring him to, the good doctor's clinic. Satan tries to take Liam and tries to convince him to use his third wish by showing him images of Gibby and Emma still at the carnival enjoying themselves, hoping that he will get jealous and make a wish, but he's not falling for it. His parents then see a video of Liam at the Post Malone concert, and they realize that he wasn't lying about that at all, so maybe he's not crazy after all. Liam locks himself in his room and FaceTimes Gibby and yells at him for hanging out with Emma without him and tells him that he's the one who fixed his teeth. Liam then overhears his parents arguing about the death of his brother Spencer that happened a while back. Record scratch. Liam, fearing that his parents are going to call it quits, goes to the hotel that Satan is staying at and wishes that his parents would stay together and be happy. It immediately works, and his parents have a real heart-to-heart. It's nice. But now knowing that he's going to hell, Liam decides that he's just going to give into the bad. He's ruthlessly mean to everyone. Emma tells him that he's being a jerk, and he begins to feel bad for his actions. Meanwhile, in hell, we find out that Satan is in fact not Satan, but just a low-level demon who's trying to get his wings, become a full demon. By granting 2 unselfish wishes, he has rendered the deal for Liam's soul invalid and is banished from hell forever. Satan visits Liam and tells him about the deal. The deal is off, and Liam figures out that he is not the real Satan. He's just a little devil. Before leaving, Satan confesses how much he has come to like him and explains that the third wish didn't actually happen because his parents made up on their own. So he is actually going to use the contents of Liam's original letter to fulfill the third and final wish. So he goes downstairs on Christmas morning and his wish has come true. What is his wish? That his dead brother would come back to life. And his family spends a wonderful Christmas together, all together again. And that, my friends, was Dear Santa.
We did it.
Did I miss anything, Alonso?
No, I think you nailed it.
You got it all through with a straight face, which
There you go.
Kudos.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll break this movie down on the other side of the break here on
Deck the Hallmark.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Monday edition of Deck the Hallmark. We are per usually.
Nope.
We are per usual.
Nope. You stay per
You
usual. at the
are
end.
as always joined by Alonso.
We are joined by Alonso as per usual.
That's one way to say it. That's one way of many.
As per usual, even.
As per usual.
As per usual.
We're talking Dear Santa, one of the 2024 movies that we missed. And here we are today. Let's start with a hot take. Hot as hell, even. Alonso, what'd you think of Dear Santa?
I find myself looking back nostalgically at when we had missed this movie.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. I mean, like, I remember the reviews were not great when it came out, and I didn't read any of them because I like not to know about films that I haven't seen yet. But I just thought this was like an average, it's just not very funny, or it doesn't really whatever. I did not see the humdingaroo last 5 minutes of this where it's like, we're doing this and we're going to commit to this bit. Like this movie ends in a way that most movies do as the next to last ending, like where they do the thing that everybody thinks they want and then discovers why they can't have it or why they shouldn't have it or why it's better off leaving things as they are. Oh, no. Dead kid, back to life. Everybody's happy. Bam, we're done. Good night. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Right. Merry Christmas.
My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the swing this movie took, and that it did not set up in any way, that it did not earn in any way. And this was terrible. Like, the Farrelly brothers have always had a tricky way of trying to balance like their love of the crudest humor imaginable with a kind of schmoopy sentimentality. And like they nail it in There's Something About Mary, and pretty much every movie since then, not quite. And they may have never gotten it quite as wrong as this.
Wow.
So that's the direction we're heading.
That's bold. It's a bold statement.
So this, I watched this movie during the holiday season, and no one else had. And I kept going around to people being like, "Have you seen this movie yet?" And everyone was like, "No, I hadn't seen it." And I was like, because I just needed to talk about this movie and how this is a M. Night Shyamalan sized twist.
It makes less sense than any of his do.
I couldn't believe that it happened, and it's a bummer that they did this because I love this premise. I think that this premise is great, and I think that the first quarter of this movie is really funny. Like a kid buddy comedy movie with Jack Black as Santa sounds like it's made for me.
Yeah.
And then they do this thing, and then they do even like you find out that the brother's dead, and you're like, "Oh wow, I didn't."
Yeah. That was a big enough thing. Yeah.
And then they bring the brother back. And I think the thing that's crazy about that is if you're listen, I am a God-fearing fella. I would consider myself a Christian. I am under the impression that most people, if given the opportunity to bring back their loved one, they would indeed sell their soul to the devil.
Yeah.
And in this movie, you can do it. And so that's pretty big news.
And keep your soul.
And keep your soul as
it's a
long
win-win.
And so
both and sitch.
that was a shocking development. And so I didn't really know what to do with it. I haven't been this shocked at a Christmas movie in my entire life. And I still don't really know what to do with it because I did genuinely laugh at a lot of the things that happened in this movie. I thought that the lead kid was fantastic. And Jack Black is one of those guys that, he's Jack Black, and I am going to enjoy about 50% of what he tries, but I appreciate that he tries. And so, yeah, I honestly don't know what to do with the movie because the ending is so insane. So I'm in a tough spot. Dan?
Yeah, the word's inexcusable. That's the word that comes to mind for me is I don't know how this made it to, I don't know. Someone somewhere had to be like, is this locked? Like they had to. There is, and I guess I lean a little closer to Bran on this, but early on in this movie, I'm like, why isn't this movie just rated R? You know what I mean? Like the dad in this movie, the first 10 minutes is so terrible. And it's really funny. Like it is like this, like it has that humor that was really good in like Good Boys, the movie that I think Seth Rogen produced. The guy, I think his name's Robert Timothy Smith. The kid, he's really funny.
So good.
There's a lot to say what you will about Jack Black. There's a lot there to say. He's never giving anything less than 110. He's fully committed.
And maybe he should.
But then the movie
Give a little less than 100.
Yeah, maybe he should sometimes.
Couldn't hurt.
So the movie starts with an intriguing premise, and the first 10 or 15 minutes, I got several pretty big laughs out of how just mean people were being, and I thought that was the tone that we were going for. And then the movie delves into a very mixed bag of half-baked premises that are done better in other movies. There's a Faustian bargain premise here. There's a Brendan Fraser movie with Elizabeth Hurley, Bedazzled, that's it, where like he's getting wishes from the devil, so they're always going to go wrong. And it's like the first wish, he's like, well, technically this is what you said. I'm like, all right, well, this is fun, like in this particular. And then they swerve away from that. They swerve into some other like comedy that would have been better as like a hard R comedy kind of thing. There's Post Malone, there's Ben Stiller, and then they decide to throw in the bomb that the reason the parents are arguing is not just because they don't get along, it's because there's a dead kid. And you're like, why are they doing this in this movie? Like, what in the previous
Christmas!
What in the previous hour? Forget the twist. Forget the fact that Satan delivers and the kid comes back to life. If the rest of the movie was great and that happened, I'd be like, why'd they do that? But I had a fun time. Talk about unearned. An hour into this movie, we find out that the mom the kids were playing outside and the mom was inside and the kid died, quote unquote, on her watch, and she blames herself. Guys, that's heavy. That's heavy stuff. That is not Peter and Bobby Farrelly, Paramount Plus Jack Black PG-13 territory. No.
And they withhold the information too.
Correct.
Like they dangle it at you, but they don't really give it to you. It's like that. Remember the Noel Diaries?
Yes.
Where like there's the whole dead sibling thing, but they start talking about it and the movie cuts to like the power lines or something. And then we have to wait another half hour to get the whole story. Yeah. It's like,
listen, it's so manipulative. I'm all for a mixed bag or a mishmash of genres if you can pull it off. But a scene where Jack Black as lowly demon is talking to devil Ben Stiller should not take place in the same movie with, do you blame me for our child's death? You can't do that. Those two things, and not with the deft hand of the Farrelly brothers, for sure. Guys, who do you think you are? I am. Like the first 50 minutes of this movie, like a passable, wobbly 3 or 4 funny scenes movie devolves into, I can't believe we made it. I can't believe it's scripted. I can't believe it passed any sort of screening or testing. I can't believe it made it to the streamer. What happened?
You know, there's an interesting theory that I read online, which is that this is an alternate ending. The original ending involved more Kyle Gass showing up as Santa Claus.
Interesting.
And it got cut after the whole Tenacious D tour thing. That's a theory. That's a theory out there. And
that would make sense.
That would make sense. Because it felt so thrown together at the end. Like, well, we got to cut most of Kyle's stuff. What do we do? Bring the dead kid back. And what's crazy about the dead kid is that they could have killed him in any way. They could have. The kid died of some sort of sickness, and we would have been like, "Oh wow, I didn't see." This kid died, and the mom blames herself.
That's right,
because she wasn't outside watching him, which is so heavy.
I think the first 10 minutes of this movie feature 2 parents with the only child they have left living, and they are demeaning this kid. They're being actively mean for laughs in this movie. So you can't, any world where you start with that scene is gone. You can't start with a scene where a kid dies and then there's one kid left and you flash forward to them being mean and making fun of this kid. Like, you can't do it. It doesn't work. And so the fact that it's an alternate ending actually, like,
it's a theory,
makes I know that I'm going to say it's real.
Okay.
Well, and it's another way for Jack Black to betray Kyle Gass.
That's right. Exactly.
It's time for all the feels.
And Alonso's not bitter at all.
No. Not in the slightest.
It's time for all the feels. It is where we talk about what in this movie gave us feels. Alonso?
I agree with you. Robert Timothy Smith is the find of this movie.
A revelation.
I think so often we get these films where the lead character is supposed to be kind of an awkward dork, and it's like, let's take this child model and put glasses on him. And this kid genuinely seems like, he is very convincing as somebody who is shy and uncertain of himself and dealing with the Virginia Woolf parents that he's got and all that stuff. So I kudos to him for that performance. I liked when the kid is so generous and Jack Black says, I know the words you're saying, but I've never heard them in that order. That made me laugh. There are a few laughs early on, and the premise of this movie is not bad. It's a bit of a one joke, haha, what if a dyslexic kid summoned Satan instead of Santa? But like they could, they get something out of it. There are a few laughs, but then it just goes so terribly wrong. And then Keegan-Michael Key, again, one of those performers where he's going to be reliable, that his scenes are going to work. He's pretty funny in this.
Yeah, I mean, I kept thinking while we were watching this is I wish that this kid was like in a Good Boys type movie, because it'd be
he's so good.
Like he's so good and he's so funny. Like the first scene that he has with the Emma character where he walks up and he's talking about his cat's nipples and he says doodles is as funny as it gets. It's so funny, and he crushed it. So I just want to see him do more of this type of stuff.
On Deck the Hallmark, sometimes the child actors in the Hallmark movies aren't exactly, this kid. And sometimes I go home and I'm like, am I just being too hard on this? And then you see something like this and you're like, no, they're out there. Like, this kid is crushing it. He did a great job.
And the kid who played Gibby was really great
He
too.
was great too.
Yeah.
He was.
My feels, weirdly enough, the thing that made me laugh the hardest, and they didn't execute it well, but the idea of a 6th grade English teacher that hates the classics is a funny idea. That is the idea of this English teacher who's teaching 6th graders who don't care. And he's like, let me tell you about Christmas Carol. It sucks. Is really I'm just so pure of a literary criticist that I wound up teaching 6th grade English. And I'm going to tell you why all these classic books are terrible. Is such a funny idea, and they didn't really nail it, but the idea of it did make me laugh a lot, and I appreciated it.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to the way what and the but that's Paramount.
With the plus.
With the plus.
There you go. Here on Take the Hallmark.
Paramount of this world.
Okay.
I'm trying here.
It's time for the way what. It's where we talk about what.
Para or mount.
This is where we talk about whether we're para or mount. Alonso, anything stick out to you as way what? Obviously this is tough because you're dealing with the devil and stuff, but
yeah, it's sort of like it's a 90-degree angle from the Santa magic thing of like, well, they've set up where he can do whatever. I mean, for the most part, I think they are following the tracks of that. I don't know that they do as much with it as they could. Like, if the kid can get up and wow the crowd at a Post Malone show, maybe he should do something more than moonwalk. Like it all felt just a little excessively dorky, and Jack Black really elbows in his way to that scene in a way that didn't need to happen.
I told Brand when that happened, I was like, this was a note. They're filming this, and he's like, what if the devil got out there? And was like, that's exactly what happened there.
But the main thing I wrote down is the wait what's were the reveal and the other reveal.
Yes. Fair.
It's tough because like one of mine is this Christmas carnival that apparently happens one weekend, but it's more elaborate than any Christmas carnival that we typically see, and it's only for one weekend. But it's also like, maybe that's the devil. The devil made it like, so it's like, I don't know. Maybe the devil did it. I did get a kick out of, and we talked about this while it was happening, but these parents are looking for Liam. They don't know where Liam is. And they decide, let's pull into a parking lot and really hash it out. And Dan was like, well, that was his wish. His wish caused them. Yeah. But we find out that they had apparently, even though it shows out of order, the parents did that on their own. It wasn't Satan making that wish come true, even though he made that wish before they actually pulled into that parking lot. But these parents who are trying to find their kid decide, let's pull right in here. We'll have a heart-to-heart and hope for the best for the kid. Can you imagine in Home Alone, they just go like, I'm sure we'll get back to him eventually.
We'll get to
but
him.
we need to talk.
We got to talk.
We need to get to the bottom of this right now.
That's right.
And shout out to my boy Gibby, who is working overtime. Liam FaceTimes him on Christmas morning, and Gibby's like, hey, man, I convinced her to give you a second shot.
Dude,
woke up
what
this
a wingman.
morning.
What a
It's
wingman.
Christmas morning. I'll get to the gifts eventually. I got to call up Emma and convince him to give you another shot. The reveal at the end, the joke that, I told her about your dead brother is funny, but it also leads to a ton of questions.
Yeah, that's the way what of the movie.
Because this would lead you
Everyone
to
else
believe
still thinks he's dead,
everybody else thinks that he's
aside
dead.
from mom and dad and brother.
And so,
and he's got to explain to Gibby what's going on now.
Because Gibby, if Gibby knows about the dead brother,
Then everybody at school
everybody
would,
knows
right?
about it. Everybody who went to the funeral knows about it. So it's like, it's not this thing where,
they fix time or
Yes,
something.
they didn't do that. So that's a big question. Dan?
The devil drives a Tesla, and I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Got him.
So that was a fun little tidbit that was in this movie. He's in a hospital bed at one point in this movie. None of the machines are on. They're not on. I understand he's there because of some mental health. But if you're in a hospital bed surrounded by machines that take your blood pressure, they're going to be powered on. Like they're going to be just in case they need them. They don't want to be like, hey, he's going in a cardiac, but this thing's got to just give it a second. It's one of the older ones, so it's got to
warming up. The thing clamped to his finger is hooked up to something.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah. It's just there for the fun of it. It's just it's a puppet. It's one of Rye Guy's puppets is what it is. And the most unreal, the two things. First of all, the worst part of this movie is the use of dyslexia to get to the premise of the movie. I'm not here to give you a lecture on dyslexia. I don't have it. I have very close family that does have it, and I can tell you what happens in dyslexia is not that you just switch two random letters. That you see different orientations of the letter, like learning to write a lowercase d, a lowercase p, a lowercase b would all look a q. All those would look the exact same. The idea that dyslexia is just, he just switched the N and the T is like borderline offensive. It's crazy. And, this movie is so silly that I don't think anybody meant it that way. But to get to the joke, the way they did it was, it's a classic dyslexia move, man. He just switched. He made Santa Satan. And that's not really how dyslexia,
Is there a chance that that's some dyslexia?
If you look up dyslexia and do any research on it, as I've done more extensive over the last 6 months to a year because of the situation in my household, I will tell you that it is very rarely I see all these letters correctly and out of order. That is a very misunderstanding. That's a misunderstanding of what dyslexia is. There's crowding. So you could have the letters in the wrong order because you wrote them all like they were one big letter. You can do the crowding is big, jumbled is big, and orientation is big. But the idea that the letters would all be written correctly and spaced exactly correctly, but the N, but
out of order,
the switch would happen is crazy town. That's the part of it that I was like, and that's just a small. Nobody cares. We get it. We get why we got there.
They also give him that joke where he spells stud SUTD.
Yeah. I think that they've
bits.
decided the working definition of dyslexia is spacing is correct. Word, letter orientation is perfectly
You're
correct.
Just bad at spelling.
Yeah, you're just bad at spelling. That's exactly right. And that's tough. And then can you imagine a teacher trying to teach a 6th grade class new material the last day before Christmas break? There's no, here's the thing is if any teacher tries it, they're usually one of the quote unquote good teachers. The bad teachers have checked out or can't control the classroom. The good teachers want to get as much out of it, but even they're checking it. And then this is the last day before class is over. Because all of those people are background actors, they're silent. The last day before Christmas break, this group of 6th graders couldn't be bothered to even whisper as the class is starting. They're not even trying to act like they spent all their money on 3 good child actors. Everybody else in there is like this. Bell hasn't rung yet. He hasn't started lecturing yet. He's not like, class, what are we doing? They're just like, everybody sit motionless and maybe he won't see us. You know how classic sixth graders sit still and shut up.
So chill.
Yeah. So that was big. That's all I got, Bram.
It's time for what the hallmarks. What I wonder what could have been. Maybe a clarity question we still have. What are we still wondering about, Alonso?
So at the end of the movie, Jack Black's sort of, flunky demon without horns has been expelled from hell for not being good at his job. I thought the whole point of hell was that you couldn't leave. I don't know how being expelled from hell is a punishment exactly. And I would love some perhaps the Reverend Dr. Pandolf can walk me through that one, because I don't get it seems to me like getting kicked out of hell is like the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, depending on how we don't have to get too, the idea of eternal damnation, kind of a crazy idea that has been latched onto modern day Christians. And then purgatory, a more Catholic idea. It's like, will you go there or will you leave? But I think most I know every evangelical Christian does believe that you just can't leave. You're just there forever and you're getting poked and prodded and killed over and over again, which is terrible. It's a terrible thing to even think could possibly exist. But so I don't know if they're following the rules there.
I don't know if they're following the rules. I mean, obviously the big one is, what do people
Dead brother?
What do people think now? But also, to your point, Jack Black at the end of this movie is, I believe, a guardian angel now.
Oh, because he's on the top of the tree.
He's on top of the tree, and
That's right.
Like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how that works. Yeah, like
it's kind of a reverse Satan trajectory, right?
It is a reverse. It's
classic
a
reverse Satan trajectory situation.
Send out of hell and.
Satan 180.
Satan 180. I just like what's his deal, Dan?
Mine I think was basically answered, but it does seem like this was made during the time of the Kyle Gass thing happening, and for him to show up for one scene and then to not show up at the end with a better ending. I'm trying to imagine this movie with just a better last 30 minutes. I mean,
Kyle Gass was made to be Santa, right?
Yeah.
Like he's made to be Santa.
And also, I do think there's enough, it's generic and it doesn't exactly all work in the same universe, but there's enough fun to be had in the first 50 minutes of this movie that I think without the dead kid, this movie could easily like cruise into a 5 or 6 of 10. Like it could easily be that movie that's like on any given Christmas night, it's kind of raunchy, it's kind of funny, it's kind of this. And I'm trying to imagine how we got here or what the first version of this was. So I don't really have anything for characters. I definitely don't want to see any more.
No.
But
I don't think we'll get any more. Well, we did it, everybody. Congratulations. We're going to come back next week with the big theatrical movie of the 2024 holiday season, Red One. So come back and we'll discuss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Alonso, anything else for the people?
Stand, you've been sitting much too long.
Okay, fair enough. Until next time, we're the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast is produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.